So good morning. This is Dr. David A. Padgett, Associate Professor of Geography at Tennessee State University. I'm also the founder and director of the Geographic Information Sciences Lab. And this is World Regional Geography 1010, Section 98. Today is February 3rd, 2021. So for those of you who have just added this course, and I noticed that there are a lot of you all that have done so. Again, this is the landing page in eLearn for your section. And my advice is for you to check in literally every day and scroll down to the calendar. And so you'll notice that on the calendar, you have various writing assignments. I'm going to get into student view now so that I'll make sure I'm seeing what you're seeing. Okay, so now I'm in the student view. This should be what you all are seeing. So you should check in every day because, as you all have probably figured out by now, in these uncertain times, things can change in an instant. And so obviously things can change every day. Check in with the calendar just to see what's happening. The various assignments are listed here. Also, just another quick note, this class is in asynchronous format. So what that means is that we can meet anytime, and all lectures such as this one are recorded so you can watch them anytime. We will meet at 9:35 a.m. Central Time on Monday and Wednesday, just because that's most convenient to me. But again, the lectures are all recorded and will be posted here for you to watch later. So here's the lecture recording from January 27th. There's another one from February 1st. If you go into content, you'll get to all of the lecture recordings in order, but I try to post the current ones on the calendar so that you can watch them first. It's probably really important that you watch the lecture recording from the first day of class, which will really go into a lot of detail about the syllabus and the grading scheme. I'm going to briefly address a couple of pertinent issues from the class rules today, but for the most part, you really should watch that recording from the first day of class because I really go into detail about the syllabus and what's expected and assignments and so on and so forth. Okay, so if you notice, there are a couple of assignments that I've extended the deadline for. I noticed that many of you have already done writing assignment 1 and writing assignment 2, but if you have not done that, I've extended that deadline. And so the first assignment is just to define geography in your own words. Just write a few sentences. It can be first person. You could say, I believe that my belief in what geography is based in what I learned in my 8th grade geography class. We did blah, 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 looked at maps, so on and so forth. It could be as simple as that. What I don't want is a dictionary definition of geography. So do not Google geography and then give me some dictionary definition of geography. That's not what I want. I want whatever you think geography is. Even if you've never had a geography class, you've obviously thought about it a little bit because you're in this class. Okay, what did you think you were going to learn when you enrolled in this class? It could be that. I believe that we're going to learn all the states and the countries. If you think that's what we're going to do in this class, that's fine. I just want to know what you think geography is in your own words. So that's a few sentences here, write it in a Word document, and then just submit, add it here, submit it to the Dropbox, and you have until, again, February the 8th to do that if you haven't done so. And then writing assignment 2, which is also due on February 8th. This is more of an essay. I want you to tell a story. Describe a memorable experience you've had with maps or mapping. Again, you might have an older relative who, when you go on a family trip, maybe your Uncle Charles still wants to use a paper map to navigate. Or maybe with you, you might have ordered an Uber and seen the little map and watched the Uber driver drive around, pass beside you, go every which way except where you are. We've all had that crazy experience with Uber or Lyft where the driver couldn't quite find us. And then after a while, either you canceled or he or she canceled. That would be an interesting story. Have you ever been lost? Even if you were lost in a mall, maybe you tried to read the little maps in the mall and you couldn't figure it out and wound up not ever finding that store you were looking for. All those are examples of how you could successfully complete that assignment. So again, I've extended the deadlines on those first 2 writing assignments. Make sure that you do those. I'm probably not. Also in content, there are reading assignments. So we're in Unit A. And so anything that says Unit A is under your responsibility. This history of geography timeline, I covered in detail in one of the lectures from this week and last week, the one that was from the 1st and the one that's from January 27th. And so later today, I'm going to continue with the careers in geography and geospatial technology lecture. And so also, if you want to get a little bit ahead, you have, not a little bit ahead, there's a reading assignment for this week, map interpretation basics, which should be posted on the calendar. So be sure that you at least glance at this map interpretation basics reading assignment. And there is, there are some vocabulary words there that you need to know. And then there's, for this link, you'll probably have to, not probably, you'll definitely have to copy it and then paste it into a new browser to get it to work like that. And so some of the vocabulary words that you saw listed are defined here: latitude, longitude, geography, physical geography. Here's some more vocabulary words, and so on and so forth. Cartography and GPS, remote sensing. I've talked about all those earlier, but here you have them in a format that's much easier for you to understand. Of course, map interpretation basics is another reading assignment that you should complete before Monday, before next Monday. And so, okay, let's see if anybody else has joined us. I guess we still have the same folks here. Okay, so today I'm going to pick it up where we left off last time. Last time we were looking at careers in geography and geographic or geospatial technology, excuse me. And so that's where we left off last time. So that's where we will continue this time. If you are new, all the information and materials that we're covering in Unit A will be subjects on the Unit A exam. And so As I mentioned before, I was not really certain about when this class would fill up. And so, like I said, I noticed that last week we might have had about 9 people in this class. This week, there's over 20 people in the class. So a lot of people actually have added this class between Monday and today. And so we want everybody to be on the same page. And so I will announce the Unit A exam date 2 weeks in advance. It will be sometime between now and spring break. So just be aware that you will have a 2-week advance warning before the Unit A exam is administered. So just be aware that all of this material that's in Unit A could potentially be addressed or discussed, or you could have questions about it on the Unit A exam. So that's your mission for Unit A. There's an exam after the end of Unit A that will cover this material. Okay, so I'm going to get into this portion of Unit A where I'm looking at some of the career options for geography, and not only career options for people who become geographers, but how geography and geospatial technology can be part of any career goals. I'll try to touch upon that. I've touched upon it a little bit earlier. I mentioned, we have a couple of political science majors in here, a couple of engineering majors, education major, and we have a future veterinarian. We might touch upon all those today. But first, let me just give you a little bit of just to review what we've covered last time. We described how cartography is now a much more high-tech venture. Cartography used to be done with pen and ink. Now it's all digital and very high-tech. And so some of you all have used Google Maps, or you've used some form of online map. And so these maps have to be updated frequently. And so here are a couple of young ladies here who have that job. So there's actually a career or job whereby people update the maps that you use in Google Maps. They have to be updated. Again, a map is a snapshot in time. A map, especially a paper map, or even to some degree, a Google map is not necessarily a dynamic real-time image. You're looking at a map that was made maybe months ago, maybe a year ago. I'm sure that you've been on Google Maps and look for a building, and on Google Maps, that building looks like a construction site. There's dirt, the building's not there on the map, but then when you get to the building today in real time, it's there. So when you see images on Google Maps and some of these other platforms, they're not in real time. Who knows how old they are? And so there are people whose job it is to update the maps, and they refer to these people as 21st century cartographers. And so again, cartography is the art and science of map making. So we covered that last time. We also talked about Forcex, this company, this mapping company that was started by a veteran, Joseph Calabresi, and he started this company in 2004 right here outside of Nashville at near Fort Campbell. And they provide mapping software for the military. And within a short amount of time, this company was generating $30 million in annual revenue, making maps for the military. And it says here, it helps save the lives of men and women serving the nation. So mapping is very important. Cartography is very important for the military. This company is growing. Calabresi's wife Tracy Garino has taken over as CEO, and I pointed out this company is very unique in that it's a tech firm that has a woman as CEO, which is very rare in tech. And if you look at the picture, you notice that there are two women of color here, probably African American, and another woman. So this is a company that really promotes women in tech and women in science, technology, engineering, and math. And the company is now in Nashville. So you should, if you are in engineering or if you are in computer programming, you should really perhaps look up this company. I think this company now has a valuation of $1 billion. This article was written in 2014, and it's 2021 now. I'm pretty sure this company has now surpassed the $1 billion valuation level, just illustrating how lucrative some aspects of geography are today. So we're not just naming states and naming capitals. This is what geography is now. It's a very high-tech field that cuts across various aspects of engineering and computer science. And then I showed you a couple of articles just illustrating the importance of geographic information systems to the military. We talked about how important global positioning systems is to the military. And so you should just glance at those articles. And we left off, we mentioned that any company that delivers anything, even pizza, uses this technology, geographic information systems. And so here's an advertisement for a job looking for a person at Domino's Pizza to do GIS. And so we also looked at Domino's. Domino's Pizza has these hotspots now. And so Domino's can deliver not only to a physical address, but Domino's can deliver to an absolute location anywhere in a city. So if you happen to be in Miami and you're on the beach, there might be a hot spot on the beach. And so this is just one of the ways that this technology is involved with the with food service and delivery. If any of you have used Uber Eats, or if you've used DoorDash or any of those services, all of them use this technology so that the drivers can get to that exact absolute location, which is your home, where you're sitting there waiting for something to eat. Okay, here's Walgreens. I'm sure you've all heard of Walgreens, and you think, well, that's a pharmacy. Why would they hire a geographic information systems analyst? Well, one of the main tenets of business is location. I'm sure you've heard that business is all about location, 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 which is very true. If you are planning on opening up a brick and mortar business, you have to know your market area. You have to know the geography of your customer base. And so the individual who might be employed by Walgreens as a GIS analyst would have part of his or her job description be to determine the best locations to open up new stores. And so this is not locating a new store, a new restaurant, a new business is not an arbitrary and capricious process. There's a science to it. I mean, it's very important. Again, if a business is not located in a good place that is productive and will feed that business will literally die on the vine. I'm sure that you've seen stores that opened up or a restaurant that opened up and and it was just going well and it was booming. And then after a while, all of a sudden it's closed. And you were thinking, well what happened? Uh, how that happened? Well, this is before the pandemic. You know, we know that a lot of businesses have closed because of the pandemic, but under ordinary circumstances, um, decisions have to be made using math, using demographic analysis, using geographic information systems, using spatial analysis to determine where are the best locations that'll provide the highest profits for a business. And again, that's why Walgreens would hire a geographic information systems analyst using this software. And again, we will be using this software within the next couple of weeks. I thought we were going to start next week, but I'm going to slow things down a little bit so that the new people can get caught up, and then we'll jump right into it. Here's a job description or an advertisement for a marketing research analyst. So I don't think we have any business majors in here, not that I know of at the time, but you're probably beginning to realize that there's a strong connection between business and geographic information systems. But this article is very interesting because it says that whoever this person is hired by the Tennessean as a marketing research analyst. Of course, this person must have MapInfo GIS proficiency. So MapInfo is just another GIS software package. We're going to use ArcInfo, not MapInfo in here, but MapInfo is just another software package in GIS. And so this person would use GIS to conduct demographic. So remember, demography is the study of population, geographic, location, and psychographic, market and media analyses. And so I guess Elizabeth Davis is interested in psychology, and you might ask, well, what is psychographic market analysis, and what does it have to do with geography and population? Well, what this individual would do in this case is he or she would examine geographic locations, such as a zip code area. I'm sure that all of you have gone to the store at some point, or maybe not. And when you were going through the checkout, the cashier asked you, oh, can I have your zip code area? Can I have your zip code area? Because when you swipe your card, or even if you don't swipe your card, the store does not have that piece of information about you. And they don't have your address. They have your credit card number, they have your name, they have maybe some other information about you, but they don't have your address. Okay. And so what they'll do is they'll narrow you down to a zip code area. So a zip code area is essentially a market area. So what they want to do is say, well, let's look at the population within this zip code area, and let's determine whether or not we'll be able to sell, in this case, our newspapers to this population. What's the likelihood that this population, that this demographic sector will buy our newspaper? Okay. Now, I'm just going to toss a question out there. What segment of the population, what are the demographic characteristics? Give me one demographic characteristic of people who would actually subscribe to a hard copy paper newspaper. What's one characteristic of that sector of the population that you can think of? Anybody? What kind of people would read a paper newspaper?
Older people.
Exactly. Older people. Yes, Elizabeth. Older people. So that's what this person would look for, are zip code areas or market areas that have older populations on average. Those people are more likely to subscribe to the hard copy edition of the Tennessean. Well, how does psychology, what is psychographic marketing? Well, there's a field called retail anthropology where people in retail study human behavior and psychology so that you can be best positioned to spend your money with them. Okay, it's not easy to get people to spend their money, right? It's not easy. You work hard for your money. And if you're going to spend your money, you're going to be really careful about where you spend it, right? It's not easy. Not anybody can just come to you and say, hey, buy this. And you're like, okay, how much? I'll buy it. You're going to ask some questions. Where did this come from? What brand is it? Where was it manufactured? What you'll look up some reviews, right? See if other people like this certain product. You know, it's not easy to get people to spend money. So retailers have to get into people's minds to get them to spend money. So one thing that you might have ever thought about along those lines is retailers use colors. I think I might have mentioned this before. If you think of the Wendy's fast food sign, think of Kentucky Fried Chicken, think of their sign, and maybe Popeyes. What's the dominant color in those fast food chain signs? What's the dominant color? Anybody? KFC, Wendy's, Popeyes. What's the dominant color?
Is it red, white?
It's red, exactly, Elizabeth. It's red. Red subconsciously makes you hungry. That's what that color does, right? That's why that color isn't in those signs by mistake. That's on purpose. So that when you see red in your subconscious, that makes you hungry. So that's what Wendy's and KFC do to draw consumers to their product. It's called psychographic marketing, and it's very sophisticated. So what another company might do, let's say there's a store called DSW, I think it's Designer Shoe Warehouse, right? So let's say a research marketing analyst working for Designer Shoe Warehouse, they would get a map of, say, Nashville, and they would look for market areas that have their most likely consumer base. And not only the most likely consumer base, but they can even break it down to specific segments of the population. So let's say that you live in a zip code area that DSW has identified as having an above average proportion of African American women between the ages of 18 and 24, right? Within this specific zip code area, between this specific community. Now, let's say that they also know, in looking at their business history or their buying history, that segment of the population is most likely to buy a pair of red heels during the month of February, right? So if you fit that demographic profile, let's say you live in that neighborhood, you're an African-American woman between the ages of 18 and 24, what shows up in your mailbox on February 1st? Anybody?
Your W-2s?
Excuse me?
W-2s? No.
No. What shows up from DSW in your mailbox?
Oh, my bad.
If you fit that demographic.
Probably what they say? Like a coupon or something that comes
Exactly. You get a coupon. What color is the shoe on the coupon?
Red.
You thought that happened by mistake. You thought that was just, no, they're playing with your mind. They know you and your mind. So you get one, Elizabeth gets an ad, Shania gets an ad, Maya gets that same ad. I'm assuming that all you all are between the ages of 18 and 24. Let's say y'all know each other. Next thing, hey girl, you get that ad from DSW? Yeah, time to go shoe shopping, right? That's how they make their money. That's psychographic, geographic, and demographic marketing. So that's where geography is now. It's not just let's name these mountain ranges. No, or let's write. No, this is very deep. There's a whole area of geography that's called geographic profiling. Geographic profiling. And it's a methodology that's used in fighting crime, especially. But with geographic profiling, what geographers do is they use geographic information systems in order to map the behavior of specific individuals. So in other words, you're using a geographic profile of the mind of a certain type of individual. And this is used a lot in crime mapping. And so, for instance, criminals tend to follow a certain behavior pattern, especially pedophiles and rapists, people like that who are essentially sexual predators. They don't just operate at random. They operate based upon a specific psychological geography when they choose their victims, and that can be mapped. And the police or other crime fighters can actually predict where a criminal of that type is going to strike next based upon his or her psychology and the local geography. So that's called geographic profiling. It's combining geography with psychology in order to predict human behavior. It can be used in a lot of different ways. So again, there are many ways that geography crosses over into many fields. So here is engineering. Barge, Wagoner, Sumner, and Cannon is one of the largest engineering firms in Nashville. And here they're advertising for GIS specialists. So if you are a civil engineer or architectural engineer or an environmental engineer, it is absolutely necessary that you have some level of exposure to this technology, GIS. I mean, there are so many opportunities out there. Here's an advertisement from Chevron. GIS, remote sensing, GPS is heavily used in the energy industry. And so that's another place that if you are interested in going to work in the energy sector, adding geographic information systems to your skill set could take you a long way. Here's another ad from conservation. Anything having to do with the environment or environmental conservation, endangered species habitat or what have you, will involve some geographic information systems skills. So one of the points I'm trying to make here is that you don't necessarily have to become a GIS expert. You can add GIS to your skill set, but you do have to have an understanding of your content area. So whoever gets this position would obviously have to understand biology and ecology and so on and so forth, natural resources. But then what would push the person over the top would be having a GIS experience. So you all are going to enter a very competitive environment, especially now. There are less jobs now, as you know, less careers now, as you know. Even if you plan on being an entrepreneur, I mean, I've owned a company since 1992. It's competitive. It's competitive. I mean, there are no There are no silver or bronze medals in business. When my business goes after a contract, and if there are 99 other companies going after that same contract, and I beat out 98 of them and come in second, you know how much money I get? Nothing. Okay, no silver, bronze medals in business. It's very competitive. Sometimes only your company or one company will get that contract. Okay, so it's very competitive. Even if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't think that you're the only person that's doing what you're doing. There are other people who are thinking the same way you're thinking. Right now, there are approximately 20 million. There are 20 million people in college right now, just in the United States. 20 million. So you might have thought, oh, I'm one in a million. No, you're not even one in a million if you're in college right now. So there's 20 million other people trying to get the same thing you're trying to get. And that's just in this country. You know, China produces more engineers than the United States. India produces far more engineers than the United States. So if you're in engineering or computer science, you're not just competing against folks from here. There's somebody in Mumbai, or there's somebody in Singapore, or there's somebody in Hong Kong that's trying to get your job right now. You know, so it's a very competitive environment. So anything that you can add to your skill set, such as geographic information systems, can make the difference between that gold medal and the bronze and the silver medal. So let's say you're competing for this position, you have some GIS experience from taking this class, and the other person, the other finalist for this job doesn't. Guess what? You get the gold, you get the job, you get the opportunity. So never eschew any opportunity to add something to your skill set, because you know you're competing. Is very competitive out here. That is if you plan on being successful. You know, if you're not planning on being successful, then I don't know. Maybe there's something else you're into. But this is for people who plan on being successful. I think you plan on being successful because you mentioned all these career goals. You didn't say, well, I'm going to come to TSU and I'm going to hang out. You can't even hang out at TSU right now, can you? Here's another position based in GIS. Again, notice part of this position. This is in Nashville, Tennessee, with a company called BrightSource. And so this position is in office location support, new market development, customer research, all the things that I just mentioned earlier. Again, here's another one, location research analyst. And so notice that location is big business, especially now. One of the things that if you've been watching the news and you are in tech, let's say if you're in electrical engineering, or if you're in graphic design, or if you're in computer science, there's something happening right now. The tech, the heart of the tech business has always been Silicon Valley forever, right? But something's happening. I don't know whether it's COVID or maybe it's just the real estate market. A lot of major tech firms are moving away from Silicon Valley in California. They're going to Austin, Texas, and now Miami, Florida is trying to make some moves in terms of attracting tech companies. And so when that happens, when a city like Miami, and you can read about, maybe let me see, we got, see, Miami attracts high tech. All right, enter. So here it is. This is Miami rising as a tech hub. Why Miami? This is from January 5th. Why Miami is the next high tech hub. Miami mayor pushes Silicon Valley big tech to move to Miami. So this whole idea of promoting urban areas, promoting cities towards certain business sectors is entirely steeped in geography. Because what the mayor of Miami has to do is convince these high-tech companies that have been in California all this time to go through the expense of moving to Miami. It costs money to move. What about your employees? Your employees might not want to move to Florida. They've got children that are in the schools in California. They have friends. They have interests. They might just like California. And then your CEO comes to you or your boss says, hey, we're thinking about moving to Miami. How do you convince your employees that that's going to be a good thing? Now, some of you might have just visited Miami. It's a totally different thing to live in Miami. Sounds nice for a vacation, but do you really want to live there? What are the schools like? What if you have children? What are the schools as good or as high quality as the schools in Silicon Valley? Are they? That's a very important thing to think about if you have children. Where are they going to go to school? Do you want your children to go to any old school? All of this information, all of this geographic information is part of the decision-making process whenever people move. So there's a sector, there's a business sector that is specifically targeted or specifically aimed at helping people to relocate. You know, they're helping people to make decisions about buying a house if they have to relocate. Where are we going to live? Where are our children going to go to school? Where are we going to eat? Where are the best supermarkets? Is there a supermarket? All these decisions have to be made when people move. And moving is one of the most stressful things that we do. People on average say that moving is almost as stressful as the death of a close relative. If any of you all have made a big move, you know, if you move if you, I don't know, maybe you haven't moved to Nashville yet, but if and when you ever do move into the dorm, that's going to be very stressful. It's going to be stressful on everybody. And so any business that makes that process easier, it can be very lucrative, especially now. So I'm sure right now there are companies that are working with or working on those employees in Silicon Valley, trying to convince them to move to Miami, or sometimes you might not have a choice. A lot of people just get transferred. Maybe some of your parents got job transfer. You had to move. You had to move from Detroit to Atlanta, or you had to move from Atlanta to Nashville. You know, it happens. Sometimes people have no choice. People just, your boss comes to you and says, Miss Sutton, we're moving you to Detroit, or we're moving you to away from Detroit. We're moving you to Jackson, Mississippi. Maybe you've never been to Jackson, Mississippi, but guess what? You're going there if you want to keep your job. And that can be very stressful, as you can imagine. Here's these are some older ads. This is a ad for a GIS and mapping coordinator for Laverne, Tennessee. Laverne is a little, it's a little town just outside of Nashville. So even some of these smaller cities have GIS coordinators. I think we have a couple of you all in political science. We have Weavers in poli-sci and Suttons in poli-sci. So you might end up going to graduate school, perhaps. Maybe you'll shift away from law, go straight into a graduate program. Maybe you'll work as a political analyst, perhaps. And so here is a job with the state government, working as a researcher, but it says GIS software skills are strongly preferred. And so here's another case of where you might be going after a position like this. Somebody else is going after a position like this, but on your resume, you can say after this class, I've had some experience with geographic information systems. You will even have a link to a map that you've made. You can show the potential employer the link to the map that you've made in your digital portfolio. And if the other person can't do that, guess what? You get the position. That's sometimes what it comes down to. Okay, so even if you're in poli-sci or if you're in some other social science, don't run away from the tech portion of this class, because everything involves technology on some level these days, especially geographic information systems. Here's another ad from Franklin, Tennessee, which is a town just south of Nashville. Anybody that goes into planning needs to have a geographic information systems added to his or her skill set. Some of you all who are in political science might end up being planners. Planning is very political. You know, where are we going? Where is the city going to put housing? Where is the city going to, is the city going to preserve historic development or not? Are we going to, you all heard about the bombing that happened in Nashville on Christmas Day last year? A lot of those buildings downtown that got blown up are historic. Now the question is, do we preserve them or do we tear them down? That's a political decision. I mean, that's not just an engineer's decision. Yeah, the engineer, the structural engineer might say, hey, we got to tear these buildings down. They're unsafe. But from a historic standpoint, someone else might say, well, no, did you know that this building was where, you know, Andrew Jackson gave this, you know, whatever. So now you're in this political discussion that's going to have to be determined by city council persons and the mayor. That's what it's going to come down to. That's who has to make that decision based upon information that comes from a person that might have some capabilities in geographic information systems. And so that's another area. So if you're in a poli-sci major, you might end up being a planner. You might get your undergraduate degree in political science, but the planning process is very political. There's a lot of law in zoning, in determining where certain land uses can be conducted. If you buy a piece of property, say you graduate, or maybe you inherit a piece of property, maybe you find out that your great grandfather left you some land in Alabama somewhere, and you go down to Birmingham, let's say, if you have relatives there, and you think, oh, I'm going to sell this land to Walmart. And so Walmart can put a big Walmart store. I'm going to get rich. Walmart's going to pay me $5 million for this land and I'm going to get rich. But guess what? The zoning commission might say, nope, that land is zoned residential. You can only put single family houses on that land at one house every half acre. That's what the zoning law says. So even though you own the land, the zoning laws might say otherwise. Now, in order to get that change, you have to go before the zoning board, which is a very political process, in order to get that property changed from residential to commercial, which you think would be easy, but it might not be, because surrounding that piece of property might be other people who live in their homes. They don't want you to put a Walmart there. They're going to fight you tooth and nail. They're going to hire attorneys. You're going to hire an attorney. And so planning is an innately political process. And the evidence as to whether or not a Walmart would be good or bad for a neighborhood would be determined using geographic information system software. Here's another job, a geographer working for the federal government. Most geographers who work for the federal government are hired by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. A lot of you all watch a lot of movies like Jason Bourne and with Liam Neeson, and they're with their CIA agents, and they're doing all kinds of martial arts and shooting rocket launchers and jumping out of airplanes and all that kind of thing. And you think that if you go to work for the CIA, that that's what you have to do. No, no. The I in CIA stands for intelligence. Intelligence is just another word for information. And so the CIA gathers information about every place on Earth. And so that's perfectly suited for a geographer. And so most geographers that are hired by the federal government are hired by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. You don't have to be a spy. You might fly a drone, maybe, or maybe you'll develop maps for drone flights. So there are lots of opportunities for geography with the federal government. Real estate. If you use any real estate website now, even if you go to something, I'm sure some of you all went to apartments.com, and there are all kinds of mapping functions in apartments.com, and you search, and the first thing you're going to get is a map, right? And you can go on any kind of real estate site, and there's going to be a smart map, a GIS map on there, and you can go in and you can select specific price ranges, and you can select how many bedrooms you want, and then you can select whatever type, an apartment, and those are all what are called attribute data, and the map changes on the fly, and then you can zoom in. So every sector of real estate uses this technology. If you want to make an investment in real estate, as a matter of fact, when you buy a home, when the average person buys a home, that's the largest investment you will make in your life. A lot of people's life savings is in that house. That house has to gain value. That house has to appreciate in value, or else you will be in trouble. Some of you might have heard about the housing market crash about 10, 12 years ago. What happened was a lot of people's homes lost all their value. So let's say you bought a home or got a home loan for $300,000, and the value of that home plummeted to $80,000. But guess what? You still owe the bank $300,000. So even if you thought, well, we're in trouble, we can't pay our mortgage, but your home's only worth $80,000. That's called being underwater. In other words, you owe the bank more for your house than the house is worth. And so in order for that not to happen to you, you have to work with the real estate agent that has a strong understanding of the geography of the community in which you're about to build a home or buy a home, because anything can happen. I had some friends of mine that bought a house, and then 2 years later they couldn't sell it because there were new houses that got built all around them in that 2-year period. So if people came to visit that neighborhood, yeah, their house was only 2 years old, but they can go right across the street and get a brand new house for not that much more. And they never saw that coming. But those are the types of things that good real estate agents or people who want to invest in real estate have to get into. A couple of you all are from Atlanta. Well, yeah, so Hicks and Johnson are from Atlanta. And here's Roswell, which is a suburb of Atlanta. They have a GIS manager. So even small towns have GIS managers. Again, if you are in criminal justice, almost every city in the United States has a crime map. And so if you type in, let's see, we've got Atlanta crime map. Any city that you type in, any large city, Here you have crime maps for Atlanta, Georgia. Here's Atlanta crime map. There's all kinds of police use crime mapping to try to fight crime. And it's very effective because a lot of criminal activity is based upon demography. A lot of times, if a population has a lot of young people commit more crimes. And so then you would have to try to develop some kind of way to get youth programming, get young people off the streets in those neighborhoods, get them into diversionary programs, find something else to do. So here's the Atlanta, Georgia crime map. And so you can look at, well, this actually is a crime map for a real estate company, apparently. And so this is if you are looking for a home, you can see where criminal activity is taking place and, so on and so forth, crime. So in real estate, there are all kinds of applications and also in criminal justice. A couple of you all are, no biology majors, but if you happen to be a biology major, there's lots of opportunities for biology and ecosystem research, endangered species, habitat delineation, such as this job. Not bad salary, up to $90,000 a year. And this ad is from 2006. So this is clearly a six-figure position now. So there are several others that we could look at. Again, more government jobs, but I wanted to get down to these last couple of experiences. Lots of internships. Be sure to look at these internship programs. They're still active, even though these ads are kind of old, but these research experiences for undergraduates, all of you should, let's see, if you are, so let's say engineering, you should type in your major and then type research experience for undergraduates. And so this is a National Science Foundation based program where no matter what your major is, there are summer internship opportunities all over the country at various sites. They can be in STEM or not STEM. Here's geoscience, computer science. There are lots of these. Typically, the way research experiences for undergraduates work is you're paid a stipend, usually somewhere between $6,000 to $8,000. In this case, a lot of these REU experiences are virtual. A lot of them got canceled last summer, but now a lot of these places have adjusted. And so if you type in, like I said, REU in your major, here's REU sites for engineering. There's one at Auburn University, Boston University. They'll pay for your transportation. So if you think, oh, how am I going to get to New York? How am I going to get to Clemson, South Carolina? How am I going to get to Cleveland? They'll pay for your transportation to the site. You get a stipend. They'll pay for your food and they'll pay for your housing. You'll get no out-of-pocket expenses, none. And you'll get one of the best research or internship experiences you possibly can get. And so a lot of these are out there now. There are lots of them. Here's ocean science. Again, it's not just engineering. If I type social science and research experience for undergraduates. So here is REU site, social behavior and economic studies. So if you're in psychology, if you're in psychology in New York, here's animal behavior, Miss Thompson. Whatever your major happens to be, these very lucrative opportunities are out there. Okay, so this is just one research experience in demography I use as an example, but look for the one for yourselves. I said they might be even virtual this summer. Okay, so what I want you to do before Monday, and we'll probably pick up from here on Monday. Read this article for those of you who are considering being entrepreneurs. This is Angela Allen's Money Map. Also, for you entrepreneurial types, here's a sample saint. Look at that. And then last but certainly not least is Movie Pass from Netflix. So we're going to talk about those three when we start off on Monday next time, just to wrap up some of the opportunities that are in geography and GIS that are related to your major, perhaps, or areas of interest or career goals. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording now.